killing your gains. Now that's a phrase that's been tossed around a lot over the years, and most of the time it's not true at all, it's just fear-mongering, but there are some things that actually will. So I decided to ask you guys what happened that prevented you from getting your newbie gains. Now obviously as a content creator and as a coach, I had a number of ideas already and I wasn't super surprised, but it was very interesting to hear actual people talk about what had destroyed their progress. So if you're a beginner to lifter especially and you're not making the progress that you want, there might be some lessons here. And there were actually 15 different categories of responses that I kind of divvied up everything into. So we'll get into these right away. The first, one person said a lack of work capacity impacted their results, which can happen. The work can't work unless you put in the work. That being said, as a beginner, you're not going to be very strong, you're not going to be doing a ton of work anyway, and you should be sensitive enough to the training, to this new stimulus, that work capacity is probably not going to be a limiting factor. But it might later in your lifting journey. Another person said range of motion, and I think this can be a factor, but it's not a super common one, and it's probably not what is limiting most people. Maybe in the extreme if you're doing your bench press and it's like this, but I think if you are not getting a super full range of motion, or you are, that's probably not going to be the thing that is holding you back. One person said alcohol. I think that if you have a really big problem with it, yes, absolutely. But as a beginner, you can probably still go out a few times a week, have a few drinks, and be totally fine. That should not impact your progress too much. If you're becoming advanced or elite, in that case, yes, you will see very few professional natural bodybuilders who drink on a regular basis. But as a beginner, this should not be the limiting factor. But it might be in the extreme. Now, 2 people mentioned a lack of specialization, and this can absolutely happen, and it's best to think of each area as being beginner or intermediate or advanced on its own. So if you're a bench bro, your chest might be intermediate, but your legs might be beginner or even just completely untrained. That happens all the time. For some people, maybe their arms are more of a beginner because they haven't trained them very much, and their torso might be an intermediate, or maybe their legs are advanced because they got really into Olympic weightlifting or something, and their back might be more of like a beginner or early intermediate. So you have to look at each area individually. 2 people mentioned kind of follow along workouts or circuit style of training, and yeah, this is not going to build very much muscle. It's not emphasizing the right style of training whatsoever. And so yeah, if you're doing this sort of like group classes, Pilates type of stuff, it's just not the right tool for the job. 2 people mentioned cardio as killing their gains. I think in the extreme, if you're trying to run marathons, you're doing several hours of cardio a day, especially if you're not eating enough, which we will get to later, believe that could impact your results. But I think for most people, adding in cardio is probably actually a good long-term investment, helps you build up that work capacity as well as the ability to recover. And so for most people, cardio is not going to be killing your gains. But I'm just reporting the data. Even if I don't completely agree with it, it can happen. 2 people also said doing too much volume killed their gains. I think this is also possible, particularly if you let the effort and the intensity drop and you're kind of just going through the motions. So it might not actually be the volume that kills your gains. It's the fact that you're tired and you're not really focusing on progressing, and you're just kind of ticking off the box of, oh, I did a set. 3 people mentioned technique, and I think that if your technique is truly awful, yeah, it could absolutely impact your progress, but it wouldn't be the limiting factor for most people. I mean, it has to be really, really bad for it to actually kill your gains as a beginner. Now, intermediates, and I'll do a whole video for intermediates, I think this plays much more of a role. But for beginners, because you are so new to training and so sensitive to the stimulus, your technique does not need to be super dialed in. 4 people mentioned protein. 1 specifically said that they had, I think, a South Indian diet where they were getting in very, very low amounts of protein, much more carb-based, maybe higher fats as well. And I think in that case, if you're like under 100 grams a day, protein could be the limiting factor. But for most people, how much protein you're eating is probably not the main thing that is worth focusing on if you're not making progress in the gym. 4 people also mentioned exercise selection. I think this can play a role, but you have beginners gaining muscle from cardio, beginners gaining pretty good arm size from their pull-ups and pull-downs, that kind of stuff. So I think for most people, this is probably not the limiting factor. Again, this is probably more like an intermediate or advanced type of thing. You're not going to be not building your biceps just because you're using this curl other than this curl, right? It's good marketing, it's good clickbait, but it's probably not actually true in most cases. 5 people said progressive overload or the logbook or tracking their workouts. And yes, this is absolutely true. This is a big one. It's becoming more well known that progressive overload is important, but I think if you're doing just 3x10 with a certain weight, you're probably not going to be growing muscle. There has to be some kind of progression. And if there's not, you're probably just not going to grow. By the way, this video is sponsored by me. So we released the GVS Hypertrophy app. My coaching has been full for a while now, and so this is the best way to get my style of hypertrophy training. So basically you answer a bunch of questions, it gives you a personalized, customized, individualized plan, and then it also takes you through the progression over time. You can prompt it, you can say, hey, I want more volume for arms, a little bit less volume for legs, whatever. It gives you a variety of splits to choose from. It's very, very powerful, and it's something that I wish I had as a beginner and especially as an intermediate. So check it out. I will leave a link in a pinned comment if you are interested. 6 people said sleep, so this is getting up there. This is number 4. Sleep is very, very important. And yeah, if you're getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, as a few people said they were, you're probably just not going to grow muscle. You could do everything perfectly, but if you're getting you're staying up till 3 or 4 in the morning and waking up at 7 or 8 to go to work, you just might not see any progress. That being said, if you're missing an hour or 2 here and there, you got to wake up early sometimes, or sometimes you stay up past your bedtime, you'll be fine. The human body is made to be able to adapt to this, but if you're just chronically missing tons and tons of sleep, yeah, not great. Now, the bronze medal of this small sample size, I think 53 people responded to my Instagram story, was not going close enough to failure or just generally not putting in enough effort per set. And this is absolutely true. If you go around looking at the average person in the average gym training, they're just not really close to failure. Do they even give a fuck about what is happening, right? You just look at them and it's they're kind of just going through the motions. There's no vim, there's no vigor, there's no passion, there's no gusto, damn it. And so, yeah, you're not going to go very far if you're not pushing yourself. I mean, harder than last time, I don't think it's a great mantra, but it's what the average person probably does need to hear. And effort is one of those things where, especially as a coach, I know it when I see it, and it is absolutely going to play a major role. If you're not activating the muscles, you're not going to be growing them. And you have to be training very, very hard to actually activate those high-end motor units. So yeah, it doesn't mean you need to fail, but you do need to be very, very close. And most people are not as close as they actually think. This is a skill. This is something that you can develop and get better at over time. A beginner might say, oh yeah, that's 10 out of 10 effort, but they're going to look back at that in a year and be like, okay, it was actually an 8 out of 10. Now I can train harder. And then in a few years, they're going to look back at their old videos. This is where I think filming yourself can actually be very, very important. If I look back at my videos from, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I know that I could have done better. It was as hard as I could in the moment, but your best can get better over time.
How does it feel? Like it's someone else's. It isn't.
And this is where a beginner might say, but I do train hard. I can't train any harder. No, you can. And the fact that you're saying you can't train any harder shows that you don't really know where you are. You don't really know where you are on that curve, and you can get better. And you should, and you need to if you want to keep progressing. All right, now the silver medal with 14 responses, so one more than effort or training to failure, is programming or program hopping. Program hopping, I kind of lumped it in with programming. It was mentioned quite a lot as well. And I do think that programming is not the most important factor, and you can make gains on a wide range of programs, but if your program is just really bad, especially if you're doing tons and tons of volume, just junk sets thrown everywhere, you're not going to grow as well as you could. Now, you don't need to be super involved in the nitty gritty and like, oh, this set here is here, and this set is here, and I need to do this set here, and I'll do a drop set here. It's like the very fine, small, minor details, they're not going to be what determines if you get your newbie gains or not. And so I see a lot of people trying to micromanage things, and this kind of goes into the program hopping, right? The grass is always greener on the other side. They read an article about this, oh no, this is the best split. Oh, this is the best split. In reality, as a beginner especially, pretty much any split can work. As long as you're not only doing a muscle every 2 weeks or something, you're going to be fine. You've all the analytics, but mostly the first 4 letters. But if you're switching your whole program up every 2 or 3 weeks, and trust me, I've been there. As a beginner, I still got my newbie gains because I nailed a lot of other stuff, but I didn't really have a fixed program. I mean, I would say for the first 3, 4, 5 years of my lifting, I didn't necessarily use fixed programs. I would like read stuff online and be like, cool, like that's what I'm doing. German volume training, that's what I'll do tomorrow, right? Like a lot of stuff was decided on the fly or just sort of, I'm here now, like what's available, what's free. I heard that's good, right? And so, yeah, I was very influenced by some studies or stuff on social media, and I would just get bored of something very quickly. I would do a movement almost religiously, almost sometimes every day for like a week or two, and then get burnt out on it and just never do it again. So yeah, it's really hard to build momentum if you don't have a fixed program. And so yeah, programming, even for a beginner, is important. And the gold medal, I wasn't really surprised by this, not eating enough or staying too lean. And I think especially if you are on social media a lot, especially Instagram or TikTok or these more visual platforms, you want to be lean, but you also want to make gains. And so that's going to be really tough to balance. For me as an advanced lifter, I'm actually probably not going to be doing like big bulks and cuts anymore, because gaining 30 pounds over a couple of years to gain like 3 pounds of muscle maybe, it just doesn't really make sense. But for a beginner, bulking and cutting, especially if you're starting out pretty lean, is absolutely the way to go. If you're fat phobic, if you are attached to your abs, lean is law, that kind of thing, you could absolutely not just be retarding your progress, but be completely killing it altogether. And you want to have your cake and eat it metaphorically, but not actually. You don't actually want to eat enough calories to grow. And you could nail every single thing on this list, but if you're a skinny beginner and you're not eating enough because you have abs, but that's all you have, you don't have a chest, you don't have a back, you don't have arms, you don't have legs, but you have abs. You know, you see these skinny guys like, oh, lifting off their shirt and it's like, oh, I have abs. Yeah, but you don't have anything else.
You have to understand the reality of the situation.
Show me. Holy Christ, there's nothing left.
It's bodybuilding and you haven't built anything, and so who cares if you have abs? You might need to sacrifice the boy to make the man, okay? You might need to sacrifice the abs to build everything else, at least for a few years. Now, a few people said that they actually started off quite husky, so like 35, 40, 45+% body fat, and that they dieted, which impacted the amount of muscle that they could gain, and then they gained muscle later. But sometimes these people are a little bit afraid to bulk because they don't want to get fat again, and so it is a little bit of a fine line, walking the tightrope kind of thing. But yeah, if you're 40% body fat, the right decision is going to be to cut, right? It's not to bulk, certainly. It's not to recomp. It's not to try to main gain or anything like that. you probably could recomp, but I think you're high enough in body fat percentage that you do want to drop that fat off and have that be the priority. And then later you can kind of shift your priorities more to building muscle. And this is where you do have to change the mentality of, okay, I'm going to slowly actually gain weight, and that's a good thing, rather than just trying to always go down. So managing that transition can be quite tricky, but it is very important to be able to do. And I would say especially that top 5, so progressive overload, sleep, not training with enough effort or close enough to failure, programming hopping, and not eating enough or staying too lean. Those 5 things are absolutely going to be important, and if you are not nailing those, yeah, they could actually kill your gains. So I will link the app in a pinned comment if you want to check it out. I wish that I had that when I was starting off. I still made decent progress my first year, but it could have been better, and especially years 2, 3, and 4, I think could have been much better if I wasn't program hopping and I had something that was actually dialed in and made sense, and something that I could just follow along with. So if you're interested in that, I will link it down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.
Your body may have gone, but you're still here.